Okay, something new. Still more or less the same. Still solving equations, but this time we are bringing in absolute value. And absolute value, if you remember from last year, is just whatever is in between these absolute value signs or bars has to be a positive result. So when we see x minus 6 equals 4, it means that whatever is in here needs to either equal positive 4 or it can equal negative 4. Okay? Which means anytime we're solving absolute equations, you're going to have, almost always, we'll have two answers. So the way we set this up is we're just going to write out two separate equations. We want to know what will be the answer of x minus 6 equals 4. Or we want to know what is the answer of x minus 6 equals negative 4. Okay? So really we're just taking the equation, we're rewriting it. It's two separate, one with positive answer, one with a negative answer. So we solve them both the way we have. So it's going to be the same work on either side. I'm just going to add 6 to left and right. So over here we're going to get x equals 10. And on the other side, 6's will still cancel out. Negative 4 plus 6 is positive 2. And so that becomes our answer. We say x equals 10 or x equals negative 2. Okay, we can check that. If we try it out, 10 minus 6 equals 4. Absolute value of 4 is 4. Let's see, 2 minus 6 is negative 4, and the absolute value of negative 4 is also 4. And there you go. Let's see. Actually, before we go on, so I want to show you why we do absolute value is that some things outside of math, like in real life, cannot be negative. Like if we talk about the distance from here to there, if you want to know how far is it to the mall, you wouldn't say it's negative 3 miles to the mall. So no matter which way you're going, distance will always be a positive value. Okay? But since we need to represent that mathematically sometimes, that's what we have our absolute values. It also helps if you want to draw pictures using graphs. Anytime you plot a absolute value equation, it's going to make this nice V here. So unlike a quadratic equation, a parabola, which gives you a nice rounded shape, if you need some hard angles here, absolute value equations are the way to go. If you want to use decimals to check your answers, it's a little bit weird. You would take the absolute value part and put that in, right? But instead of putting the answer, instead of putting 4, call that y. And that'll give you this red line here. And then we just say what we want y to be. So in our case, we said we needed to equal 4. So if we say y equals 4, it makes this blue line going across. And then we can just select where those lines meet. And you see it means that where x is 2 and where x is 10. Okay? Not that you need a calculator to check these because the math on this is pretty straightforward. But later on that might be helpful because we are going to see more complicated equations later this week. Okay, so the second one, same idea. The absolute value of x divided by 2 is 3. So we're just going to split that up into two separate equations. We want to know what is x divided by 2 equals positive 3. And what would make this true if we said x divided by 2 is equal to negative 3? Or. Okay. So to get rid of division, the opposite of dividing by 2 would be to multiply by 2. So we do that to both sides. Okay. So these on both sides that will cancel out. Over here we're left with x equals 3 times 2 is 6. Or this time we have x equals negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. So these multiplication division problems are even easier because it's always going to work out this way. Where you're going to have a positive answer, and then you're just going to have the opposite is also true. Okay, so don't stress out if you keep seeing this pattern. Anytime if you're just dividing or multiplying, if you just change the sign of the answer, it's not going to change the value, just the sign. Okay? So the plus or minus equations, you're going to have separate answers, totally separate. For the multiplication and division, you're just going to have different signs. Okay? And if you think about it, there's definitely a pattern between green, between whatever is to the right of the equal sign and the difference between your answers. Okay? So take a look, see if you can find some patterns. Some interesting things happen with absolute equations. But anyways, if you need help, send me a message.